Straight from your mama's womb, it's the Doom Room.
Oh my God.
I'm doomed. I'm Alex.
Oh my God.
Pick up the groom because you're in the Doom Room. I'm Justin and I'm doomed.
I'm Pete. What's up?
And we're going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 4 of Doom Patrol, titled Cult Patrol. Now, brief bit of recap here, in case it's been a while since you watched the episode and you need to remember. This one introduces Discount Constantine in the form of Mark Shepard's Willoughby Kipling, who shows up, introduces the whole Doom Patrol to the concept of the cult of the Unwritten Book. They get attacked by it while trying to protect that unwritten book, who is a dude named Elliot. And ultimately, things get worse before they don't get better by the end of the episode, as Jane and Cliff are prisoners of the cult of the unwritten book. The decreator has been released, a big eyeball in the sky, and everybody's in a real bad place at the end of this episode. The big thing about this one is we're 4 episodes in, and this is the first one, I think. I mean, we had the first episode had a big cliffhanger, but this really feels like the first part 1 of 2 episode, right?
Get
big.
Cliffhanger.
Cliff Steelhanger.
Yeah, there we go.
That's pretty good. Justin, we'll check in with you first, given this is a big deal for you, experiencing
it's a big deal for you.
Part
It's a
1 of
huge deal for
2,
me.
a part 1 of 2 for the first time on the show, which is a real game changer. How you feeling? You okay?
Yeah, how
It's
you doing?
crazy to stop in the middle and then wait and have it like I don't know the answers. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah. Just finish the story, guys. You know, you're like halfway through the story. This is a new thing for TV. It was an innovation for TV. It's the first ever 2-part episode.
Listen, I don't know if this is why they did it, but it does make me want to come back for more.
Really? That's really interesting.
Well, it looks like
I
they're
wanna
doing their
find
job.
I feel like
find out what
more
happens.
should try this.
Oh,
I
man.
feel like a lot of people walk away from this and be like, all right, I'm satisfied. Eyeball. But see, me, I'm just like, wait, guys. Let's dig a little deeper and watch part 2.
It's like me and dinner. I walk away from dinner. I'm like, no, I'm good.
Wow.
Well, that actually tracks. Alex, I don't know. That's good. What are you missing?
Yeah,
A second
I
dinner?
can't walk
second
away
dinner.
from dinner, yeah.
What are you, a prince?
You sound like Lord of the Rings. Do they know about second breakfast?
Yeah. How many meals do Hobbits have again?
A lot.
That's a
They're
bad
living
habit.
the dream.
Yeah.
Having 2 breakfasts is a bad habit. Let me just throw out real quick.
Or the best, you know,
Best what, Pete?
the best habit.
Hobbit. I gotta say, this show is just, it gets better every episode. I really, really am enjoying this. Again, I wish someone had told us sooner that this show was worth watching and podcasting about. So let me just lay that out. But let me also say, is this the same Elliot as the Elliot in E.T.?
Yes, Elliot.
I thought maybe it was the same Elliot as my son's middle name, but it's spelled differently, so probably not.
Wow, well,
Your child is a book also, right?
Sunflex.
Yeah, well, that's how we raised him. I'm
Sunflex.
expecting that any time now, my wife is going to kill me.
I mean, that is true,
I'm
Alex, but
also
for,
waiting
also
for that.
tracks.
for
Yeah.
unrelated reasons,
I
there's
keep
no
demanding
cult.
second dinner.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have any more dinners. Please stop eating.
Oh my God.
This is my big question about the Hobbits. They keep having these nonstop meals. Like, just don't call them different meals. You're just snacking all day. That's all you're doing.
Oh, wow.
Interesting. But then what do you invite? If you invite someone over for just snack, then when do they come over?
Come over
Yeah.
for food. I don't know.
You
Give them a
need
time. Say, hey, we're Hobbits. We never stop eating. You know that. We're friends. Come over, eat food. Whatever food we have out. It's probably that hardtack bread.
I invite you over for snack and you show up at 9 a.m. with a bottle of red wine. It's confusing.
Absolutely. I mean,
man.
would you turn me away?
Yeah.
No, at breakfast in my house, we drink a warm vodka.
With eggs floating it, right? Infused.
Exactly. We're health nuts. Of course.
So let's talk about Elliot, though, since you did bring him up. This is, yes, Pete.
I
Do you want
wanted
to get back to the
up.
eggy vodka?
You
I
want
wanted
to back up from the
truck.
beginning?
I want to back up the truck a little bit. What's fun is they're having kind of fun with the titles here. You know what I mean? You know, it's a simple thing, but it's just enjoyable. The fact that like the show's a lot of fun, even the titles are a lot of fun.
Are you talking about the recap?
No, I'm talking about the
Cult Patrol.
like Paw. They have Cult Patrol. The next one or a couple more is like Paw Patrol. They're just kind of having some fun. Like even the titles are fun. But I know we had talked a lot about was it Hannibal Lecter or yeah. I mean it went right from the DC flip into Hannibal Lecter. So like that. I mean he's got
that was last episode.
Yeah, but it was in the recap, so like they hit us again with it, the previously on.
Oh, that's great.
Right.
Can I tell you what I actually loved about this episode is the HBO Max launch page for it. It's mostly purple.
Get out of here. Get out of here. This is
mostly
This is anti-podcasting. This is a personal
Pete, what did you
attack.
think about the Apple TV interface where I had to click over to HBO Max? I recently had to delete the app because it took me out of it. And then I reinstalled the app. Should I keep going with the story?
Yeah, please do.
Sorry,
I'm sorry.
I've had a lot of eggy vodka.
I'm sorry to just point out that there's a lot of layers to fun to this show. Okay, so I'm sorry.
Thank you for
the apology.
Thank you.
Elliot, we start with this fun cult birthday montage. This character is fun and sad, fits right in with the vibe of all these characters who are like, my life sucks, but here I am still living it.
Yeah, I really like this intro too, just the way that it's filmed, it's not a subtle way, but the way they keep flipping through these different Elliots to give us the passage of time works really nicely, and it shows how he has lived his entire life, going right up to that shocking moment where the wife immediately slits the dad's throat.
Well, she's going to get a knife. I mean, this is not the time to turn your back on, your wife. If that's just not smart.
I guess the bigger question is he probably had a lot of other times to tell him when she was somewhere else, right?
Exactly.
Like they don't just interact
she seems like she
birthday.
sticks pretty close to the Cakes and Elliot in general. Yeah. Real like helicopter mom. Am I right?
Oh boy.
Mm-hmm. But I do like Elliot. I do like the actor. I think his interactions.
I don't know. It seems a little depressing. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's the point. His interactions with Larry, I thought were really nice. In particular,
Rita.
Fan of him. I hope he survives past this episode. That's my.
Oh, that's nice of you.
Well, and before I knew that this was going to be this innovative idea of to be continued episode, I was like, oh, this kid's just going to get killed at the end of this episode. I thought it was going to be a quick turnaround. Kip was going to come through and just like end it. But I really I like that the Elliot character is also bringing out better qualities in Rita and Larry. It's like we talked about last episode. These characters seem incapable of dealing with their own issues, but when they're talking about someone else, they confront their issues or they realize that they have the same issues that Elliot has in a way.
Well, and this is very much jumping ahead, but while we're talking about Elliot's influence on Rita in particular, there's that amazing moment where to protect Elliot, Rita uses her powers correctly for the first time, not even realizing it. She just does it on instinct.
Well, I think correctly is an interesting word choice there because I think she's like, whoa, I can do that? That's much cooler than being a goop. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Well, and I think that comes down to it's such a smart moment in terms of letting us know that Rita does have this better nature to herself. When she's focusing on herself, when she's focusing internally, she starts to literally melt down. She turns into a puddle. She turns into a blob. But when she is being selfless, when she's fighting for Elliot, she is able to control her movements and be in total control of her body. It's interesting to extrapolate that also on what that potentially means for her as an actress. We don't really have a sense of we know she's a popular actress, but we don't know if she's a good actress.
Oh, come on,
Let me just say, I don't think she's classically trained. As a classically trained actor, we can always smell her.
Let's back up off of Rita, please. Okay?
What, you're talking about her theatrical... Are you offended by her lack of theatrical training?
I know. I'm offended that you guys would come at her acting, all right? Because the stuff that we've seen on screen has been marvelous, especially for the time period, okay? So why don't we back up off of that? I want to talk about the fact that...
So just to check, Rita's acting okay for the time period. Larry Trainor being uncomfortable about coming out to his family, not okay for the time period.
Oh, my God. That's not my problem with Trainor, okay? Is that I want him to be honest with the people who rely and love him. Okay.
Yeah.
So
did you know that trainers are actually what they call sneakers in England?
Wow, that's a fun fact.
I mean, makes you think. Makes you think.
It doesn't make you think, because we didn't find him next to another person who looks exactly like him, maybe in a closet somewhere. He was on the beams. You don't put
think
shoes
about it
up
this
there.
way, but you have Larry Trainor. Again, trainers are sneakers in England, and then
Let's just call him Larry Sneaker.
Larry Sneakers. And then the negative spirit is kind of sneaking around a little bit like a sneaker.
Oh, wow.
So there you go.
All right.
I think I properly justified bringing that up.
Nope. I really liked Rita's kind of talk to him when he was on the ledge. Like, it was this hysterical. Yeah, it was this hysterical thing of like, well, you're only on the second floor. So, and he's like, I can't even get this right. It was like, she wasn't overbearing. She wasn't, get away from there. It was this kind of calm. It was really nice to see her have this kind of honest moment with this character. And really, she started to kind of grow from there as a person. So it was really well done. I was just in this silly, completely insane, over the top episode. There was some really emotional moments.
Well, I think you're right there, Pete, because it was when she first saw Elliot there, she came over and tried her usual spiel of just like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to have a Manhattan and go to sleep. And he was like, doesn't work. That's not helping me. And so then she has to go deeper, really reveal herself to him, and ends up on this great line, the world is a beautiful, horrible place. It's spectacular, which was awesome. And it really was introspective. And from that, I think we see we can draw a line to her using her powers in a more interesting way.
Why do you think she bonds with Elliot in particular, other than the fact that obviously the script demands that in terms of everybody moving forward as characters? What is it about Elliot in particular that she bonds with? Is it the fact that he's a kid? Is it the fact that he's about to attempt suicide? Is that something potentially
he's
in her
at
past?
rock bottom where I think she is or has been, you know what I mean? She's kind of knows kind of a little bit of his headspace. And I think that's why she's able to connect with him so easily.
Well, and he's vulnerable, and so she can come in. There's an opening there. All the other characters in this show have are calloused up and just can't be reached and are dealing with their own things. And then you got to look at Rita's been dealing with Cyborg, just purposefully leaving her out.
Yeah, dude, that
on
was
her
cold
case
as
for the
ice.
past 2 episodes, and really making her feel bad because of her issues, which then make her issues worse. So I think with Elliot, she saw a chance to give what she in turn needs to him.
Do you think it's perhaps because he has writing all over himself and she recognizes scripts?
A good script when she sees one?
She sees a good script and she's like, I know what that is.
You're a horrible person.
She's trying to develop Elliot into a multi-part series.
Don't jump out a second-story window. I want to option you.
I just hope that Elliot has a to be continued on his body somewhere. Like there's a episode ends on his right butt cheek and on his left is the second episode.
He's got to make sure he gets points on the back end. Otherwise, he's not going to.
You mean the ass by back end, right?
No, I don't.
Actually, in England, when they're doing part 1 and part 2 of a script, they call it cheeking. Because you're jumping from the left cheek, the first episode, to the right cheek, the second episode.
I really wish you didn't do that.
Can we jump back and talk about Discount Constantine, though? Who, mind you, I love. Mark Sheppard, great actor, always fun when he shows up on a show. He's always great at everything. But I do remember my reaction when he showed up here because they have, I'm completely blanking on his name, but the guy who plays Constantine over on the Arrowverse shows.
Amazing. He's great at
He's great too. And they had introduced him, and this felt like Oh, even in the comics, I think this character is like, yeah, we could have get Constantine, so we created another Constantine. Pretty much, right?
Yeah. Sometimes you need, if somebody's busy, you need a B level. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And it is a weird choice because I guess this was a time where it's like, well, let's not introduce the character. I feel like so many other shows now are like, yeah, let's just do our version of the character and who cares? We'll clean it up later. We'll bring in some fans maybe. But to your point, I really like this character. He is, the fact that he smokes just like Constantine, it's right over the plate.
Drinks a lot more than Constantine does.
I wouldn't say more, but...
Yeah, he even has it's a different color trench coat, but he even has a trench coat like Constantine. So,
if you're going to do magic, you kind of need a trench coat. So,
to hide all the spells.
Yeah, a lot of different reasons.
Yeah. This is also a fun fact. Anytime you see somebody with a trench coat that they're holding still, holding around them, they're definitely a magician.
Yep.
Ask them what tricks they're hiding.
Or it's a bunch of
they'll show you.
Smaller people stacked on top of each other. You got to be careful for that.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm glad you said people.
Yeah.
You used to work at a movie theater, right, Pete?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You got to keep your eye out, man.
And for a while, you were the middle kid in a secret trench coat stack, right?
Yeah. It's
the
a tough
hardest
gig.
job.
It's a tough gig. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think's harder, being the middle kid in the
work.
trench coat stack or the middle of a human centipede? Or is it basically the same thing, Pete?
I think it's a gateway.
It's not the same thing, and stop being gross.
Once you get tired of the trench coat stack, you're like, well, got to take it up a level.
Nope.
Exactly. Well, when people, as Pete said, when people stack themselves underneath the trench coat, they are stacking butt to mouth, I believe, is how you lock them in.
How else are you all going to eat the popcorn?
Stop it. You just pass the popcorn down to the next person. Stop being
then you see the
gross.
heads. Then you see the heads. You get kicked out of the movie theater. Come on.
Well, when I'm in a movie theater and I say pass the popcorn, I expect someone to digest it and then whip it out.
Stop. Please.
So anyway, that's what's going on with Willoughby Kipling in this episode.
There is one thing I want to say. Cliff calls him a drunk David Copperfield. And if you're not familiar with David Copperfield, he's a magician. And I don't know if I've ever told this story.
Hold on. I need to get this back on track.
Wow. Alex started laughing first, and I was like, I'm not sure what's happening yet, but now I see.
But when I was a child, David Copperfield made me disappear.
Wow.
Great.
Isn't that a shocking story? I can't believe you guys aren't reacting that more.
Well, I've heard part one of the story, the
I've
left
heard
cheek,
a
if you
lot.
will, but I've never.
I think I've only been telling part one over and over again for many years.
Man. And that's how you ended up here, right?
Exactly. He made me reappear in this podcast.
Yes. But yeah, I
I'm
do
like the
this
light
character.
being of this podcast.
Yeah, I do like this character. I do like that he brings another weird element into the show. We haven't really dealt with magic explicitly yet. It's mostly been science-based stuff for the first 3 episodes. So throwing that into the mix, it works really well, in particular against Cyborg, who is still dealing with a lot of the stuff that he was dealing with the past 2 episodes, just in terms of what is his actual origin, what is the relationship with his dad, how does his technology actually work, but at the same time giving him this challenge of technology isn't necessarily the best. Magic also really works really nicely. It tests him in a different way, and it also tests him immediately thrusting himself into a leadership role, which nobody likes anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the way that Kip brings in a lot of fun magic items, like sort of down to earth. The chewing gum, no, it's knowing gum.
Yeah,
the beads
the
dipped in
Janis
sriracha.
The sriracha beads, the Janis Joplin floss was just. I mean, it was just one crazy item after another, but really fun. And and getting to talk about Alex's back and forth with Cyborg, I loved when he walked up, he was like, vodka, check. Rum,
Alex's back
check.
and forth?
Well, Alex, you were saying Cyborg Kip's back and forth was fun.
Oh, okay.
When he was doing his, all right, I'm just doing a weapons check. That was really a fun bit.
I mean, I'd love to be in the show if you're casting, is all I'm saying.
Are you classically trained? Because it only works to have one character like Rita, who's not classically trained as an actor.
Does eating a couple of dinners count as classically trained?
Yeah, that's what I mean by trained.
Okay.
The way that Kip also sort of is helping to sort of further open this door on who Calder actually is. I think is cool, especially with the stuff that Larry learns about what Calder knows about his inner light being.
Yeah. So what's your theory on that, Justin?
It's very hard to say. The torture. So in the episode,
that was I was really hoping for like positive news, not the fact that like, oh, he lives off tortured souls. So of course, old Jackie Sneakers is going to be the one to go live with.
I really like the runner of Larry keeps waking up with this monitor on, and so the light being is trying to be like, here, watch this, yeah. And then the idea that torture was what's there is the one word we get out of the light being. I don't think the light being is a malevolent spirit, a bad thing. Like, despite the fact that he's been really like, almost pranking Larry or leaving him in compromising situations, I think he's just frustrated trying to get Larry to be a better person, to be a hero. And so I think the light being, the word torture, I think it's torture maybe being inside Larry when he's at this.
So the one word was out of context. He was like trying to say a whole sentence and we only heard torture. I love your positive because like, this episode was a little bit kind of like maybe this light being isn't the good guy we're hoping for.
Well, he keeps trying to put Larry on a path for sure. Or I don't think if he wanted Larry to die, he would do that. Or if he wanted things to go worse. Like there are definitely easier ways of him getting what he wants if that's just Larry to let him free more often or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say I'm hesitating from answering anything that you're saying only because I don't remember what I remember. I realized watching this episode, like I remember the broad strokes of the episodes while I'm watching them going, oh yeah, okay, this is the one with that dude who is a book and there's a cult after him and they end up this weird city. That is the stuff that I remembered. But the specifics of things I didn't necessarily remember where they come. So certainly, I don't know. I think it sounds to me like you're on the right track. I don't think that's necessarily remembering the plot, but certainly structurally, I think it's supposed to indicate what Pete is thinking, which is the negative spirit tortures Larry. But I do think it's actually what you're saying, Justin, which is it is torture being in here or something along those lines.
It is torture not being able to do good or whatever. I mean, we have to find out eventually what the spirit actually is.
Yeah. Why don't we move on to some of the other characters? We talked about Rita. We talked about Larry. We touched on Cyborg a little bit. Mostly he's hanging out with Willoughby the entire episode, but the bit of him trying to be boss and nobody caring about it continues to be very, very fun throughout.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole team and like, they have a common goal. They are a team. But I loved how he goes into lecture mode and it drives everybody insane. That's really fun.
And also I was just going to mention the fight scene towards the end where he does team up with Willoughby before Willoughby betrays him. Badass. It was very cool. The arm cannon's very cool. The flaming sword is very cool. That was a lot of fun.
Well, the visual of the villains being dead skin and unsent letters, very fun, very like Sandman, or, more specifically, I thought if anyone's out there looking for a comic book that is sort of like Kip, outside of Constantine, Books of Magic, a comic that Neil Gaiman wrote for the first 4 issues of and then had a very long series afterwards, has sort of similar ways of using magic and sort of this similar tone to it as Kip.
But it's heartbreaking to know that there's so many unsent letters out there. I mean, it's just...
I would just mention as another recommendation, if you're looking for a comic book to check out, you should check out Doom Patrol.
I thought you were going to say Unwritten because it has.
No, that's actually
that is another good one.
Yeah,
but Pete, how many letters do you send on a daily basis?
I tell you, if I write it, I send it, man. You know what I mean?
A lot of those letters, if you actually look close at the screen, were signed Pete LePage.
I don't think so. It did look like at one point though the Elliot had like written down, and then it looked like a little drawing of someone drew like a dick on the side of his face.
Yeah, he actually isn't. The cult he's a member of is a fraternity and he just passed out too close to the keg.
Yeah.
So a couple of quick notes just because I was looking this up. First of all, Willoughby was created by Grant Morrison and Richard Case for Doom Patrol Volume 2, Number 31 in 1990. He was in the comics for about 2 years. And in fact, in the comics as well, Willoughby was created because they weren't allowed to use Constantine. Because they didn't want to spoil the realism of the character. And so instead of basing him on Sting's appearance like Constantine, he was meant to look like Richard E. Grant's character from Withnail, from Withnail and I.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and if you don't know Richard E. Grant, he also played old Loki on Loki, for example.
Oh, nice!
Yeah.
Withnail and I, great cult movie if you've never seen it.
But yeah, there you go. We should talk about Jane as well. We haven't touched on Jane at all in this episode. A lot of her stuff is just digging into Cliff more than anything. How are you? We talked about this a little bit the last episode, but how are you feeling about their relationship as it continues to develop or fracture apart?
Yeah, it feels like they're falling apart a bit, and we get a lot of gesture toward their sort of father-daughter relationship that I think that Cliff maybe likes, but is a little weird about, and she seems to not like, doesn't want it or doesn't need it. I mean, we have this dream sequence at the beginning of the episode, and then later the cult makes them see the different perspectives of how they see themselves, each other, and then what they actually are, which I thought was a great little montage bit. This show does such a great job of constantly refocusing the perspective of the characters, what they think of themselves and each other. So I think they're very smart about that.
Pete, were you going to say something about this?
Well, yeah, it was just kind of like this heartbreaking thing where we kind of like Cliff's in between dreams and he's like himself and then he's not. But the fact that like it goes from such a sweet moment of him with his daughter to like, oh, him and Jane are actually having this nice moment and then wake up, abrupt reality, get away from me, like it's bad what you did. And what was weird is also Cliff's like, what are you talking about? As soon as she said, the place, I was like, yeah, dude, it's because you were like covered in blood from, ripping Nazis in half. How did you not know that?
What I don't understand about Jane's point of view here is she's like pissed at him because he's a toxic man.
Right.
But in that same fight, she killed a bunch of people. Like she killed the main dude.
That was a different, you know what I mean? That was a different person who killed it.
Well,
one of the other people were judging.
I think that's the thing she's going to have to come around to realize is we were talking about this the last episode as well. She constantly just pushes against everybody. She's like, you're wrong. I'm right. That's her MO in every single situation for these first 4 episodes. Like a real Zalbin is how I'd refer to her. How I'd refer to her, Pete, not you.
No, okay? I got it. No,
all right?
Yeah.
Me. I'd refer to it that way. Anyway, just to own that, I'm going to own that from now on. Anyway, she pushes back on everything because that's her MO. And I think that's what she's doing with Cliff is she's seeing him as this one thing, as this toxic man who likes to kill people because that's how she sees him and that's it. We know there's a lot more to him just based on the mere fact that he's Brendan Fraser. And there's, we know Brendan Fraser deep down is a nice guy when we look at him.
We know that?
We do. But also, you said it in the first episode, Justin.
I didn't say deep down he's a nice guy. What are you?
All right, roll the tape.
You spend last summer with him? Roll the tape.
Yeah, in the Hamptons. Right. It was very nice. I was like, take the Scorsese movie. Come on. And he was like, I don't know. I want to do Mummy 5. And I was like, take the Scorsese.
The Scorsese.
Yeah. Scorsese.
I do. Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, we do ride with Cliff maybe the most in the show, sort of, so we do know him internally. But I would say, like, he puts himself out enough to the other characters, including Jane, where she should be able to know that he's not the monster that she saw him in that one moment.
I do think it's a self-defense thing of, like, pushing people away. And what I'm hoping will happen is because like Zelba and I can't really remember is that, like if he keeps staying and being steady, he will win her over. You know what I mean? Like if he's like, all right, this is what you need to do. Fine, I can take it. I'm a brain in a robot suit.
I'll throw another idea out at you. Maybe it's more along these lines. The fact that because Jane has all of these personalities, she's completely split. She does the opposite to people and boils them immediately down to one thing. And the thing that she's boiled Cliff down to is toxic man. That's it. That's the only thing he has going on. And that's a way of maybe ignoring her own personalities, her own thing that's going on, is putting it on these other people, distilling them down to their basic essence, because that's something either she is scared of in herself or just can't do in herself.
Yeah.
Potentially. I don't know.
Yeah. I would like to say, though, Cliff was killing me in this episode. Some really funny lines, like when they get to, the place, the snow globe place, and he's just like, clowns, nope. Like he turns around like he's going to walk out. Oh, that was hysterical, man.
One other thing that I wanted to mention that is almost apropos of nothing in the show, and I know we like to keep really focused here on this podcast, but
always.
I just found out last night, I don't know if you guys have seen Encanto, the new Disney movie that's on Disney+. Luisa, the beautiful older sister, is voiced by Diane Guerrero, who plays Jane on the show. And she's also the singing voice. And has a really beautiful singing voice. So I don't think we've heard her sing on Doom Patrol, but it feels like a natural fit if they ever want to go in that direction.
Wow.
Well, maybe they will in one of the upcoming episodes, which are to be continued.
Song Patrol, maybe. I don't know. Just throwing something out there. What else should we talk about in this episode? Yes, Pete.
I want to talk about how Cliff walked up to a trainer and was just like, you believe a blue horse head? And he just was like, yeah, I was a very funny.
We haven't even talked about the blue horse head yet, which is amazing. It's just
there's like a
horse
nail,
with no name.
A nail in the head instead of like a unicorn horn. It had like a nail going the other way. It looked very painful.
I really like the line. I don't know if I trust Kipling, but I don't know if I trust Kipling, but I believe the blue horse head.
Yeah,
good line.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Horse with No Name, a song by America.
Yeah. Also, speaking of songs, love the joke with Kipling. What does he actually do? Like the last line of the episode is maybe I should have done A Hard Day's Night. But earlier on, he does another Beatles song because he could never remember the lyrics to Hard Day's Night. Was it Love Me Do?
Love Me Do, I believe.
Yeah. Which is easier to remember.
100%. Except for in this case where you couldn't remember it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Go ahead, Pete.
I was just going to say those nuns were crazy creepy.
Yeah.
What did you think about the fact
they were back in the habit?
Speaking of religious people, the dude with the stigmata was named Father Cuervo, which I thought was pretty interesting because we originally, and we were all very in favor of this, wanted to call this podcast Doom Patron. And every episode, we'd review an episode of Doom Patrol and taste a tequila here live on the show. And then Pete said, I don't like tequila. So we didn't do that.
I can't drink tequila because I had a couple really bad nights in college. And so I don't want to.
What do you mean by bad?
Pete had a bottle of Oops All Worms.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Big mistake. Big mix up in the factory over there.
You had a bad tequila night in college? I had a bad wine cooler night in college. That's why I can't have wine coolers anymore, a thing that otherwise I would love to have.
Yeah, wow. Dodged a bullet there.
Yeah.
Mr. Bartles and James.
You don't have a drink that you no longer do because of maybe an over excessive evening?
Who are you asking? I just said wine cooler.
I know you just said that, so I'm asking the other person in the podcast who maybe has an opinion about this.
I mean, I guess Jaeger bombs is something I don't do, but that's just a biological, physiological change for the better. My first bad drinking experience was with vodka. So, and I don't really enjoy that, except, of course, in Bloody Marys and most other cocktails that feature vodka.
Except for any other mixed drink that maybe has.
And this bottle of vodka that I'm drinking right now for 13th breakfast.
I guess it's more specifically, I don't want to drink a plastic liter of Lord Calvert vodka that can be found in the worst liquor stores.
Well, you're going to be really bummed out when I come over for breakfast tomorrow.
Don't you mean snack?
Snack time. Sorry about that. Couple of other things that I really like just to call out as I'm going through here. Right at the beginning, you get down here and eat your fucking cake, Elliot. Fun line right at the top of the episode.
Yeah.
I think this was Cyborg. I didn't note it down, but him saying, "Do you want to find the chief?" And everybody's like, "Sure."
Yeah.
I guess. They really could care less. Also, this was Cliff's line. Who is this guy? Is he someone's uncle?
Yes.
Line, yeah.
Just so many great lines in every episode. I feel like
I knit, okay?
Yeah. Good stuff. What did you think about Cyborg's revelation? This was interesting to me on a DC Universe perspective, that there are 37 dimensions. And I bring that up because DC is so laser focused on the number 52. It was surprising to me.
It was surprising.
I agree. Weird to call out 37 when if you're going to put any number in there, it would be 52.
Mm-hmm. Maybe I haven't gone back and count. Maybe it's the number of DC shows or something at that point. Maybe there are potentially 37 different multiverses out there through the various movies and TV shows. But yeah, little bit of a strange thing. Also, Willoughby's different spell stuff was very fun. I wrote down Janis Joplin's dental floss.
Yeah.
Love to know more about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was just some really, really like over the top, insane moments happening kind of like back to back where you're like, wait, what is this? They're made of, when you shoot them, they turn into, letters. That was crazy, fun visual. Also, yeah, I just love the fact that like we had the Magic and Cyborg just like kind of like side by side kicking ass. I know Alex had mentioned it a little bit, but just like seeing Cyborg happy and like doing well was really kind of a small moment, but a great moment to kind of to see. And also, I loved how he had this kind of like super bomb that he could light up. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
What did you think about the revelation that all of Nirnheim is in a snow globe in Doom Manor, which is very Saint Elsewhere?
It's fun. That's just fun. The show's having a great time. I thought that was hilarious because when they got there and it looked like little board like fake houses, it's like, okay, well, what is this?
Well, and it's just continues to point to this whole show is about Calder, about the father figure leaving without having anything figured out. So if he was there, he could just be like, oh, it's right over there. Let's go smush it or do whatever they need to do to stop this from happening. But instead, the kids, the Doom Patrol, have to figure it out for themselves.
Yeah. Any other moments before we start to wrap up here? Anything else you want to call out?
Now, when the big eye appears, it's a left eye, right?
What?
The way the eye is shaped, it's like a left eye.
Yeah.
What are you trying to say? Left Eye Lopez? What are you doing?
I'm just saying, do you think we're going to get a right eye, or do you think we're going to get the rest of the group?
I think it's the mind's eye. It's the middle eye. I don't think there's like, But
I'm telling you, if you look at the eye, it has a shape of a left eye.
Mm-hmm. Lopez?
Do you... I don't think there's a difference between your left and your right eye, guy. I don't know what you're saying.
What? Yes, of course there is. What are you talking about?
I don't know. He was like,
"Oh,
this
eyes
is
match."
You look at a giant eye in the sky, and you're like, "Well, this is definitely a left eye, guys. Everybody, just be careful.
Your eyes are not the same."
I mean, I understand a little bit, but
I'm sorry,
I just
we're
think
not
it's funny.
as conventionally attractive as you, Pete, with perfectly symmetrical eyes.
I just think that's a funny thing to you see a giant eye in the sky, and you're like, well, that's clearly a left eye.
Well, if there is a left eye, I'd be looking for the T-Boss.
I'm looking for the waterfall, but then I shouldn't chase it. But
fair enough. Why don't we move on and talk about who was most doomed this episode? Pete, who was most doomed this episode?
Well, I'll tell you. Seems like old sneaky trainer is the most doomed because he has yet to move forward. And I was really worried that the light being let the kid go. Like, what what was that move? You know what I mean? Like that kind of gets brushed past for all the madness. But I was pretty disappointed in the Light Beings' plan to just let the kid go.
Well, maybe the Light Being knew that the cult was coming there and ends up getting him and sort of killing him to create the left eye in the sky.
All right.
Justin, what about you?
Left eye.
Most doomed. I mean, the easy answer is what I was just talking about. Elliot is capital D doomed. Mm-hmm. He's doomed from his birth. He's got a tough birthday party situation. No friends, man. Only his parents invited. Which you gotta wonder, why get all the balloons? Why get all the balloons?
Right? I'm going to throw out Jane as most doomed this episode. We didn't touch on it too much, but she seems to be in a pretty bad place to the point that she's completely regressed into her own head, isn't even appearing anymore. We meet Penny Farthing this episode. We get that very funny line, "Back me up, Tiny Tim," from Cliff, which is all good, but not only is she battling Cliff, but she seems to be entirely lost here. She doesn't know necessarily what her place is, versus last episode, when she was stepping up and being a hero for the first time. So it's a big change from one episode to the other and makes me very worried about her going into the right cheek episode, if you will.
We're right. You know what, guys? This is a great place to be because we're right in between the left and right cheeks. We are like hovering over the butthole. It's right where you want to be.
I don't know about
Is that where the eyes are, by the way? 100%. They say the butthole is the eye of the cheeks. If you'd like to support this podcast, patreon.com/comic book club.
Why would you support us after that line?
Patreon.com/comic book club.
Wait, don't.
I don't know. Send us.
Aren't I supposed to?
Just wait.
iTunes, Android, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice to subscribe and listen to the show at Comic Book Live on Twitter, comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and many more. And over eager Pete, you get to finish off the episode with a piece of advice. Take it away.
Don't join cults. You're enough, okay? You know, just get on a chat room and find some people with some like interests, but don't join
a chat room. That's a lot very culty.
Don't join the cult.
Find a chat room. Just let me know what your age, sex, and language are.
Whoa!
You know, whatever's going on. ASL.
Pete, I can't believe you're asking people to go chasing waterfalls when I would think you would tell them to don't go chasing waterfalls.
Stick to the rivers and the streams that you're used to.
It's right there.
Is it rivers?
I want to try out some new rivers and streams. I want to try a new stream.